Have you ever seen a ghost peeking around the corner? Now, these peeking ghosts, or peekers as they're often called, are a type of shadow being. Now, people speculate that these may be the spirit of a person who in life was a very violent or evil person. And when they passed, their spirit that remains has no form. And often what it is trying to do by peeking from behind the door, or sometimes even appearing as a person that is just a pile of clothes, is to try and get your attention and to get you to notice it. And by doing so, right, you are giving power to it to come into your life. Now, there was one such story. There was this teenager who lived with his mother. And one night he's sitting in his room and he's watching television, when out of the corner of his eye, he sees what looks like a person peeking from behind the hallway door. So he looks at the TV and he looks back at the door and it's gone. And then once again, out of the corner of his eye, he sees what looks like a person peeking into his bedroom. Another time, he's in his kitchen, and as he walks past the hallway, he thinks out of one of the bedrooms he sees a head peeking out at him. But when he looks closely again, there's no one there. And he starts having these experiences around the house, and he thinks that maybe it's only him that sees them. Until one night, he's sitting in his bedroom, and he looks over, and he sees something peek from outside of the doorway. And all of a sudden, his mom comes to the door and is like, "Is everything okay?" And he says, "Yeah, everything's all right, I think." But when he looks at his mom, he sees this thing peek out from behind the doorway real quick. And all of a sudden he notices his mom just gets this horrified look on her face. And he goes, "What's wrong, Mom? What's wrong?" And she wouldn't tell him. Finally, after a couple days, he gets his mom to tell him why she was horrified that night. And his mom says, "This really weird thing happened when I was talking to you and you were sitting in your bed. I looked over at your closet, and for a second I seen something peek out from behind the closet door." So one night he goes to bed and he wakes up in the middle of the night and he looks at the post of his bed, right, the front of his bed, and he sees a face peeking up at him. But this time he actually notices what the face looks like, and he sees this is a woman with long black hair, no eyebrows, solid black eyes, and no mouth or nose. And after he notices this woman, he said he just started seeing her in his dreams. He started seeing her everywhere he went. And this spirit was almost like tormenting him. His mother, who was very religious, ends up calling in the neighborhood priest. And he comes in and actually does a exorcism on the boy. And after that, he no longer seen this thing anymore. But he realized if he did see it again, not to look at it. This Bigfoot researcher named Ralph. Now, Ralph had spent his whole life looking for Bigfoot. And he said, in all these years, he had never had an actual encounter. And he said that was really all he wanted more than anything, was to experience firsthand Bigfoot. Now, he said he had heard about some Bigfoot sightings in northern Wisconsin near this Native American reservation. And so he made his way out to this area to stay for a couple of weeks. So he said when he got there, he met with this Native American man who knew the woods around this area pretty well. And he was talking with this guy, if I want to see, what you guys describe as Bigfoot, like, where would I go? And so this guy, gets out a map and he says, I would check in this area and this area. Well, as Ralph is looking at this map, he notices there's an area that's circled and kind of crossed off. And Ralph's like, "What is in this area?" And he said, No, I don't talk about that. And he said, "Well, is there something there?" And he says, "Look, do not go there." And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "That's where the young ones live." And he goes, "What do you mean young ones?" And he said, "That's where the young ones of their kind, that is their home. They stay there. And it's a very dangerous place. Do not go to this place." So Ralph's like, "Okay, yeah, I'll stay away from there." But in his mind, he's thinking, for sure, I'm going to go and check this place out. So he sets off on this expedition through the woods. And sure enough, he makes his way onto the map to the area that's crossed out. So he said he gets there during the day and, he starts looking around this area, setting up equipment. He doesn't have any experiences. And he's like, maybe he was just trying to scare me because, there is nothing here. I'm looking for signs of Bigfoot. I don't see any footprints, markings, anything that would indicate that he would be in this area. But he decides, you know what, I'll stay a night and see what happens. So nightfall comes and it's completely dark. He has nothing but a flashlight at this time, and he is just kind of, sitting around waiting for something to happen. Well, in his backpack, he had brought this recording of a baby crying because there was this theory that Bigfoot may respond to young children crying. So he plays this recording on this CD player he has, and you could hear a baby crying throughout the woods. And he said, it was such a still, calm night that it probably was traveling like a very, very good distance. And he said, as soon as he puts this sound on, right, he can hear something crashing through the woods, and it's coming right towards his direction. And he said in various other places around him, he could hear like these crashing sounds. And then he proceeded to hear like these really loud screams. And he said at this moment, like, he started to panic because he's like, oh no, like, what did I do? I'm out here all alone. Like, this is crazy. So he said he got down on the ground and he just like started bawling. And he's like, please, please, I'm sorry I came here. Like, please just leave me alone. Please, please. And he said the screams just kept getting worse and worse. And the only thing he could think of was just to walk on his hands and knees and kind of crawl out of this area. So he began crawling, and he said all around him he could just hear these things screaming and moving and running by him. And this whole time, it's completely dark. He doesn't want to turn on his flashlight and see what is out there. So he said he just kept crawling and crawling. And he said the next thing he knows, he felt what he thought was a weird rock. And he said he turned on the flashlight, and he could see that he was grabbing a very large, hairy foot. So he hurried up, turns off his flashlight, and he said he got up and he just took off running. And he said whatever this was, it just chased him the whole way, but it never went up to him or physically hurt him. It was just trying to like scare him. And he said after he had made it a few miles away from this place, everything quieted down. And he said after that, he knew that Bigfoot was real, and he knew never to go back to that area again.